Introduction: The secret behind Europe's transformation. The story begins in 1517 in the city of Wittenberg, where the monk Martin Luther prepares to nail his famous 95 Theses to the church door. Just before he does, a mysterious rider delivers coded letters across Europe carrying the same symbol, a triangle with an eye and the Latin phrase, "Now is the time to act." This reveals the existence of a hidden organization known as La Convenance Noire, the Black Covenant. According to the story, this secret network of bankers, merchants, printers, lawyers, and political manipulators had spent decades planning to reshape Europe. Their goal was not religious reform for spiritual reasons, but the destruction of centralized church power so commerce, banking, and political influence could flourish freely. The Covenant believed Europe's future belonged not to kings and popes, but to trade, finance, and information. After Constantinople fell, the Covenant supposedly began after the fall of Constantinople in 1453. When the Ottoman Empire seized the city, trade routes between Europe and Asia became expensive and unstable. European merchant families in places like Florence and Venice feared economic collapse. Secret meetings were held among financiers and traders who decided Europe needed a completely new system, one where commerce controlled politics instead of religion. The Covenant slowly recruited bankers, printers, lawyers, diplomats, scholars, merchants. Their most powerful weapon became the printing press, because information could now spread faster than any king or pope could control. Instead of creating chaos directly, the Covenant looked for real public anger and used it strategically. Using Luther as a spark, the Covenant saw Martin Luther as the perfect instrument. Luther hated church corruption, especially the selling of indulgences by Pope Leo X. The Pope needed money to rebuild St. Peter's Basilica, so indulgences were sold aggressively across Europe. A preacher named Johann Tetzel became infamous for saying, "As soon as a coin in the coffer rings, a soul from purgatory springs." The Covenants secretly encouraged this corruption because they wanted public outrage to explode. When Luther posted his 95 Theses, Covenant-connected printers had already prepared thousands of copies in advance. Within weeks, Luther's ideas spread across Europe like wildfire. The Church tried to silence him, but every attack only made him more powerful. The Covenant strategy worked perfectly. Europe divided religiously. The authority of Rome weakened. Local rulers gained independence. Merchants gained freedom from church control. Magellan and the New World. While Europe argued over religion, the Covenant also manipulated global exploration. The story claims they influenced the expedition of Ferdinand Magellan, whose voyage circumnavigated the Earth between 1519 and 1522. Their real interest was the spice trade. Portugal controlled Asian trade routes, and the Covenant wanted those monopolies broken. A mysterious cosmographer named Rui Falero supposedly manipulated maps and calculations so Spain could legally challenge Portuguese control of the Spice Islands. Even after Magellan died in the Philippines, the voyage succeeded. Trade routes opened, and merchant houses connected to the Covenant became richer than ever. The Covenant's dream was becoming reality. Religious unity collapsing, empires weakening, global commerce expanding, and Boleyn and Henry VIII. The Covenant next targeted England. According to the story, the romance between Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn was not entirely accidental. Anne's family supposedly had links to Covenant trade networks. The Covenant needed England to break away from Rome because English wool and trade were vital to Northern European commerce. When the Pope refused Henry's divorce request, England split from the Catholic Church. The Act of Supremacy, 1534, made Henry head of the Church of England. A brilliant advisor named Thomas Cromwell helped restructure England. Monasteries were dissolved. Church lands were seized. Wealth moved into merchant and noble hands. Commercial law expanded. The Covenant achieved another major victory. Rome lost control over England forever. Saving religion, preserving money. The Catholic Church tried to fight back through the Council of Trent. The council aimed to reform corruption and strengthen Catholicism. But according to the ledger, Covenant agents secretly infiltrated the council and prevented reforms that threatened banking and commercial finance. Religious doctrine was tightened, but capitalism survived untouched. The Church saved its faith, while merchants kept economic power. A war designed to continue. In 1572, thousands of French Protestants were slaughtered during the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre in Paris. The official explanation blames political panic and religious hatred. But the ledger claims a covenant-linked merchant manipulated events behind the scenes because he wanted France trapped in endless conflict. The covenant supposedly believed total peace was dangerous. Total victory was dangerous. Controlled instability created profit. The massacre devastated France and prolonged religious wars for decades. The fleet that was meant to fail. In 1588, Philip II of Spain launched the mighty Spanish Armada to conquer Protestant England. History says storms destroyed the fleet. The ledger suggests something darker. The covenants secretly fed military intelligence to England while misleading Spain. English commanders learned weaknesses in Spanish ammunition and naval logistics before battle began. The Armada was defeated, and England rose as a global sea power. Again, the covenant benefited. Protestant trade expanded. Spain weakened. Atlantic commerce flourished. Engineering exhaustion. The devastating 30 Years' War became the covenant's greatest opportunity. The war destroyed much of Central Europe and killed millions. According to the story, the covenant did not start the war directly, but they knew it was coming and positioned themselves to profit from it. They supplied weapons, grain, horses, military financing. Most importantly, the war ended with the Peace of Westphalia. That treaty created the modern idea of sovereign nation-states. Countries ruled themselves. Religion became more decentralized. No emperor or pope could dominate Europe again. This outcome perfectly matched the covenant's long-term vision. When the conspiracy became the world. By the late 1600s, the covenant had effectively won. The systems they wanted now defined Europe. Capitalism, international banking, stock markets, religious pluralism, parliamentary government, commercial law, global trade empires. The secret organization itself began to disappear because its ideas no longer needed secrecy. Its influence supposedly survived through the Bank of Amsterdam, the Bank of England, trading companies, political philosophers like John Locke. But one radical splinter group may have continued operating in secret. The ledger hints this faction eventually reached the American colonies, and may even have influenced the hysteria surrounding the Salem witch trials. The mysterious Venetian ledger ends with a chilling line. The accounts are closed. What we built will outlast us all. The story finally asks one haunting question. What if the modern world was not created naturally by history, but carefully shaped by hidden networks working in the shadows for generations? And if so, who truly controls history? The people whose names we remember, or the invisible people behind them?